Hey, welcome to the Strategic Success Podcast. I'm your host, Courtney Fricke. Thanks for tuning in. If you're wanting to learn more about how to do a subject to deal as a real estate investor, don't rely on a 60-second TikTok. Come to one of my workshops. I have my next one scheduled on Saturday, May 17th in the Tampa Bay area in Florida. It's offered both in person with limited seats as well as online, especially I know we're going to max out the in-person. So with that being said, this workshop is where I deep dive my concept of safe subject to. Because there's no such thing as a 100% safe subject to deal, but how can you do one as safely as possible? And so this is where I deep dive the process, the paperwork, the due diligence, how to run the numbers, and then when to pull the trigger. You know, what makes something a good deal versus one that you should maybe not say yes to. You definitely want to come check this workshop out if you have interest. Maybe you've already been doing subject to deals and you want to learn more. Go to CourtneyFricke.com to either get your in-person or online ticket today.
All right, cool. We got former Major League Baseball player. I don't know how he likes to lead with that. Ryan Schimpf talking with Courtney and I today. And this is our residential real estate segments of our YouTube channel and our podcast. And so we're talking a lot about how residential real estate professionals grow their business and do business in general. And so we have a lot of really cool people in the market, and I think that people might know your name and know who you were, but just because of the your history at LSU playing baseball and professional sports. But there's a lot more to Ryan Schimpf than just that. And I've gotten to know you over the last couple of years. It's been fun, whether it's with Hog Watch on raising money for kids with pediatric brain cancer, or just doing business with you. It's been fun getting to know you. So glad to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah,
always enjoy hanging out and talking shop.
Yeah. So before we get too much into anything else, let's just talk about Ryan Schimpf in general. And I kind of gave a little bit of a background, but how did you transition back into the mortgage business after having a 10-year career in Major League Baseball?
Yeah, it definitely wasn't something that I thought I would do. I mean, I thought I'd be a coach somewhere or play forever and ride off into the sunset. But, when it was time for me to go, I mean, Coach Maneri at LSU, he was like, it rarely ends the way that you want it to end. I mean, not everybody can retire like Chipper Jones or Jeter.
Yeah.
And he's right. I mean, it just never ends the way you want it to end, but I'm proud of my career and, proud of what I was able to do and win a championship and share a lot of my pro career with my wife and kids. So, the transition, a lot of people don't talk about it a lot. It's pretty difficult to figure out where you're going to go to next. What are you going to do? Because all you know how to do is play baseball. So, and you kind of wrap your identity in that. So we could talk for an hour on it. But I mean, kind of in a nutshell, I got in this business because one of our owners, Richard Lanassa, really, I've known him since I was 16. He got me in the business. I mean, he started a couple big companies, good, successful mortgage companies here. And I was looking for something different. Every athlete, I feel like, goes into medical sales or insurance.
Or sells cars.
Yeah, and it just something that I just wanted to do something different. At the time, I didn't know of any ex-baseball players that were in the lending business, at least locally. And so I was like, you know what, I want to do something that's totally different and really show that I can succeed in something else besides baseball.
Yeah.
Because it's challenging. It's not easy to get started. It's not easy to keep going. So I had a little gap to where I was trying to figure out the next move, still going to play, not play, what am I going to do? And I just kind of went down the rabbit hole on YouTube of real estate investing and kind of piqued my interest a little bit. And then the finance part of how the deals work, a lot of bigger pocket stuff. And I just really liked that and wanted to know more about it. And, at some point, I figured I'd get into real estate investing, or maybe I want to, but what better way to learn about it than to know the financing part.
Yeah, sure.
So combination of that, and want to do something different for myself. And then, Richard approached me when I was out, kind of knew my wheels were turning and convinced me to get into the business. Never thought I would be in it. Definitely, had some growing pains with the change of pace, kind of wanted to pull my hair out with.
Yeah.
Very different lifestyle.
Yeah. Going 100 miles an hour, you kind of live in a totally different lifestyle, nocturnal, it's
with sports.
With Yeah, baseball in particular, because the games end late. You get to the field midday, and it's just a totally different lifestyle.
Yeah.
You're always on the go. I mean, you have
Yeah,
seasons. Yeah,
it's
very
hard.
different
It's
lifestyle.
hard to take a cage animal and put him in an office.
Yeah.
And I mean, I started off in kind of unique, kind of just thrown to the wolves. Had my own pretty office, like, hey, go get them. And then, I'm glad that I did, because I learned a lot. It was frustrating, but I think if I started like in a call center in a cubicle, I don't think I would have ever been.
Yeah.
I don't think it would have lasted long. So, long story short, that's how I got into the business. And I mean, almost 6 years later, still in it. And it's hard to believe it. I really can't see myself doing anything else. I mean, who knows? But yeah, I mean, I do enjoy the business. Nothing will ever, no matter what you do coming out of baseball or sports, like nothing's going to ever get you that high again, that fulfillment. So I think no matter what you do, for me, I'm kind of all into anything that I go into. If I'm halfway in, it's never going to work. I'm going to go pivot to the next thing.
Yeah, sure. So you said that you could talk about an hour about the transition, but I'm fascinated that we talk a lot on our podcast with military veterans who have transitioned out of the military, and it's the hardest thing they've ever done in their life, because they've know where to be and what to do. They had a mission. They had a group of guys that were all focusing on the same thing, and you get out and you're kind of figuring out this like kind of wishy-washy world where people don't have to be anywhere. They don't have to respond to emails, and you're having to figure out how to navigate that. And all the things you've done in your career, you earned the right to have some authority and respect, and you don't necessarily have that. Even if you've earned it in business, you don't have to, the people don't have to give it necessarily. And so I feel like baseball is the same way. You work to the highest level, right? The story about you and Mark McGwire is probably one of the coolest stories I've ever heard. And you hitting a home run off not Sammy Kershaw. What's Kershaw's first name? Pitcher.
Why are you making me draw like Clayton Kershaw?
Clayton Kershaw. Yeah, I mean, like that's.
It was like Sammy's a country
yeah,
singer,
right? No, Clayton Kershaw.
I like to be Sammy
if
Kershaw,
he's not in the Hall of Fame, he will be one day.
Right.
And you got the. I mean, like those are really cool stories. And you've done a lot of great things in your baseball career, and then transitioning into business. You're right. Taking a wild animal and putting him in a cage would have been difficult, but I think that having a mentor like Richard and working in the mortgage business where you kind of can make a name for yourself is probably one of the easy steps and transitions and businesses you get into. But it's got to be hard. What things from your baseball career and disciplines that you had have helped you in what you do now?
I mean, it's kind of a blessing and a curse at the same time, because I was never like, nobody would outwork me. Like when it came to on the field, I'm 5'9", 185 pounds, but I hit more homers than most.
Yeah.
And, I don't know the reason why, but I knew that I was a very hard worker. I was a big thinker, to an advantage and a fault sometimes. But, I mean, the work ethic, number one, is something that, I think I have a leg up on anybody else, because I would have never gotten to the big leagues if I didn't work hard being 5'9", and, I wasn't the best
you don't just
infielder.
end up there.
Right. And the saying back in the day was, when times get tough, you got to have something to fall back on. That's your work ethic. That's your practice.
Yeah.
Like the talent only gets you there.
Yes.
So it's only sustainable for so long. And then when it hits the fan, like, what do you fall back on? If you don't have a routine, if you don't have the basics, like you can't go back to diagnose the problem. So that's something I always took to heart, because I had to work. I was always gifted hitting, wasn't gifted fielding. Like I catch the ball, but in order to get to the next level, like I had to really, really work my butt off. And I think anybody that played with me would tell you that, like, I wasn't the smoothest guy on the infield, but I mean, I'd go to a knee and take a ball in the throat just to knock it down.
Yeah.
Because I could hit the ball and they could put up with it until I got better at it. So, like you were talking about getting into the business, I think one thing that helped me out was joining Richard and the team, because I think if you've ever met him, he's 100 miles an hour. You can't keep up with him. So I think his speed and the energy that he brings off is something that kind of drew me to going to work for him. I think if I went to somebody else who was kind of just a normal, like, boring business guy,
Like
I don't think
laissez-faire person.
I would have never, like, I would have went stir crazy. I don't think I
Yeah.
could have did it.
Sure.
Well, and I think that's huge, because it's like, it's this concept of who you learn from matters. Because a lot of people know a lot of things, and you could work with other people, but really, you grow into the conversations you're around. So that's super critical. But on top of that, it's like you're being. So I used to live in Thailand. I lived there for an entire year, and I could tell when a Thai person was being taught English, who was their teacher, because they'd have like a British accent, an Australian accent, an American
That's funny,
accent,
yeah.
a Filipino accent, right? An Indian accent, whatever. And so like it's that idea that your teacher will, rub off on you and you'll smell and sound like them, right? But the reality there is that's both for a positive and a negative, right? So like when I was living in Thailand, I got sought out because people wanted to sound more American rather than like a Filipino accent, right? But in the same way, when it comes to business, who you learn from, you're gonna sound and smell like someone, right? The question is who,
Right.
and so I love that because sometimes that's just half some people's problem is it's just it's who they're surrounded around or who they're learning with or who they're working with is just that's part of the maybe the issue, right? And so I love that for you that you were with someone who you're like, hey, this actually fueled me, right? It wasn't an anchor that kind of kept me, but it was more of a propeller that really fueled me.
And for a mortgage lender in any real estate profession, if you take a year and sit back on your heels and learn, you're not going to be making any money to support yourself during that time. So it's hard because people want to know more or know everything before they're willing to take a step. If you're the type of that type of person in this business, you're going to spend a lot of time not making any money learning, as opposed to just getting a couple deals under your belt and learning as you go. And so there's kind of a balance with that. So, I mean, and I think that myself and like Richard, we tend to move quickly and we pivot and solve problems as we go, as opposed to sitting there and we feel like we got to know everything before we take a step. So it's good to have that type of a person so you don't find that you're sitting there waiting a year and a half later not making any money because you've been trying to learn instead of going out and actually doing some business, putting money in your pocket. So I think all those things are good. But and before we transition, because Courtney and I, we love talking about hard deals, so we're going to talk about those in a minute. But what does this community mean to you? You're from here. You played baseball at St. Paul's. You went to LSU. We're not far from Baton Rouge, so like it's a small world that you grew up in, and you made a huge impact on winning a national championship at LSU. So what does it mean for you to be able to come back here and do business with friends and family from St. Tammany or from the New Orleans, Baton Rouge area after going and playing ball over the world?
Yeah, it's definitely a big deal for me. I mean, I do love this community. I mean, I've lived all over the place. And it's, I've seen it go from a small community back in high school to what it was. You can drive, like, I don't think I came down this road at all in high school.
Yeah.
I do take a lot of pride in going to high school here, being from here, and, having the success that I've had in baseball and coming back. Like I'm very proud of that.
You should be.
And LSU as well. So it's, Louisiana's my home. We could have settled down in Arizona or somewhere, but for me, like there's no substitute for the community, my family being here. I mean, I don't know why we choose to live in a place with hurricanes and floods and all that stuff.
You can never
we
justify
do.
it whenever, I mean,
Right.
Whenever I travel, I can't ever really fully justify other than maybe the food and the culture and, the
Right.
people.
The food. Yeah. I mean, we have everything that I love here, between sports, fishing, hunting, green, rain. It's like, I've lived all over, and I'm like, I miss like being in Arizona. I'm like, I miss rain and green and water.
And in January 2025, you even might get a little snow in Louisiana.
Right,
at this point,
right. But no, I mean, I'm proud. I mean, I played with a bunch of guys, and even at LSU had the best experience you could possibly have. But I always loved going back to like high school memories, being from here. It was just a different feel. Like going to St. Paul's, it was a small community, a brotherhood that a lot of guys throughout the country, like they didn't really get that.
Like it was more of a stepping stone for them that they kind of went through.
Yeah, it's just a unique brotherhood. It's like, believe it or not, like I'm closer. Like I have a small group from high school, and even if we had a reunion, like it'd be like yesterday, even like the 300 or 150 or however many it was in the class. But I'm now closer with guys from like the 90s that we're friends with, or guys that are younger than me. It's weird. It definitely is like a fraternity brotherhood that you kind of have a bond, especially if you talk with a client or something. You're always looking for a connection, and you find out they went to St. Paul's in '75.
It gets to be a real small
town. And they think that they're the greatest
quick.
alumni of St. Paul's history. But right. But no, I do love the community. My wife's family is rooted here too. I mean, her family goes way back. And it's ironic the baseball field's named after her uncle, who was a brother at St. Paul's. And so, I mean, I love the community for sure. And
I think it's also cool to give Felicia a plug because, being from here, our high school sweethearts got married. She traveled across the world watching you play baseball and moved. How many times? She probably knows the number.
I think she tracked down 30
different moves. Yeah. And so her company that she operates now is a company that helps people move and organize their houses in transition, which is cool. And again, move back here again, making the same impact that you're making on the mortgage business for people here. So I think it's great. And I think that you should talk about it more because I think having roots here and putting that out there and knowing that you're still making an impact in a different way now is important. So let's transition a little bit. Courtney, being the real estate problem solver that she is, always brings to light great conversation. And so a lot of times we talk about these things with real estate investors or with real estate agents, but a lot of times people don't realize the dynamics of the financing of a real estate deal. And so, especially like when we get a file and y'all are involved, the lender, it's our time to kind of shine. The agents have kind of done their part on the front end. Obviously, they're doing some communication and inspections, but like this is where it really gets the rubber meets the road, the underwriting process. And there are some difficult things we have to deal with from a title standpoint and from a lending standpoint. And so we wanted to talk today about a particular type of transaction that you enjoy doing, which is the bank statement financing. So talk about that a little bit and like what that means basically, bank statement loans.
So the bank statement loan, like you have agency loans, those are your normal everyday loans. The bank statement loans, it's the non-qualified mortgage. It's like an outside the box one that's more and more popular.
And like it's important for people like myself, entrepreneurs, folks who don't have a traditional, W-2 where, they can go get a, maybe a more traditional type loan.
Right.
And so these bank statement loans, first of all, part of the reason a lot of people more and more today are, between gig economy, between, a very strong entrepreneurial, I don't know, maybe it's because I'm in the world, but I just feel like so many people are like, they've, whether it's they've got a W-2, but then they've got this side business or they do gig work or they do whatever. I just feel maybe it's just the affordability issue in general that people have to have additional things. And because of the information age that we're in, so many people are just, learning on TikTok how to start a business or how to do whatever, whatever it is. Maybe I don't know, there might even be case studies on why there's such a maybe demand for it. But when it comes to, the bank statement loan, do you mind explaining what it is first? So that people, if they've never heard of it before?
Yeah. So if you're self-employed, so you got to be self-employed to do it. And if you have a good CPA and you have a lot of deductions, expenses or whatever, and you don't show a lot of taxable income, you really can't qualify for a traditional loan and you're handcuffed. You can't do anything.
Yeah, you're penalized for being smart on the tax side.
Right.
Tax savvy. Yeah.
So there's investors out there that say like, hey, these are good borrowers. Let's find another way to help these people get into a home. So basically we don't need your tax returns in order to qualify. We can just do it off of the deposits that go into your bank account. And that's how we qualify you. Now there's, so we have to factor in a certain amount of business expenses because there are expenses.
Sure. Yeah.
Some are more.
That's not gross. Yeah.
Some are more or less than others, but I would say the key to it is to really, if you're, doing side jobs, cash or whatever, it's probably not going to work. But I would say like if that is an option for you, or you think that might be an option for you, just to kind of get your ducks in a row and really start to operate your business in a way that maybe you don't have to change the way that you file your taxes, but operate the business account, your personal account, like have legitimate deposits going in and out to start functioning like a real business. Like don't keep $1,500 in your pocket here and then it's like do it all legitimately because that's income that we can use.
Which is important.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll when we're advising business owners about how they can grow and scale their business and really functioning in a way that allows their business to create the life that they want, one of the things you have to do is you have to start dealing and making sure that your finances are in order. You have to. And having a good CPA, not necessarily to push all the buttons, but to just check your work to make sure you're doing it correctly, allows you to take advantage of things like this. Or if you go into a bank or go to a mortgage company and say, well, you don't qualify, knowing like, okay, well, maybe that stuff that Core Lending's doing, I maybe qualify for. Where they walk in your office and they don't have anything organized in the right way, you're going to have a lot harder time getting everything there. It's like, some people walk in with a bad credit score and they got to work to get that better. I would imagine people walk in with a bank, want to do a bank statement loan, and you got to say, well, I can't do it until you go do X, Y, and Z, right?
Well, but I always think people should reach out, though, because you're the expert. So, because there's so many people who it's almost like because they don't know how to figure it out, they just don't do anything.
Right.
And so there's a level that I'm always like, go talk to a lender.
Yeah.
Start the conversation with Ryan and say, hey, what would I need? Maybe my credit score. Maybe it's because I'm dealing a lot heavy in cash and I really need to be better in my deposit systems or whatever. Because Lord knows us entrepreneurs, we're messy as hell. Like, literally. Sometimes. Maybe most of the time. But literally, I knew a restaurateur guy that, he had restaurants. And unfortunately, when he passed away, literally, we were like, they were a family friend. They were just like, y'all, don't throw away anything in the house. Why? Because he left literally cash and everything. Like, I think they found like thousands of dollars of cash going through his stuff, like stuffed into like the crevices of the truck. And it was like, so obviously that's an extreme case, but it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, you might need to get a few ducks in order, but the most civilians don't know how to get their ducks in order.
Right.
Or they probably just need a little guidance. And so the best thing I always say is start a conversation. Call Ryan, start a conversation. And look, maybe it's not a today thing where we can pull the trigger today, but maybe you can set me on the right path.
Yeah, because you don't want to wait 2 years so you're ready to buy and then delay yourself another 2 years to get it all straight. And even if it is like the bank statement loan or like you were saying, bad credit or whatever, like don't ever like count yourself out. There's some people that just assume on the flip side that, oh, I got to do a bank statement loan. I write everything off. It's like, well, like, how do you know that? Well, I show nothing on my tax returns. I'm like, but so on that same note, I'm like, send me your tax returns and let me look at them because like there's stuff that we can add back and like, boom, next thing you know, they can qualify for an FHA loan. So it's like, have the conversation early, whether it's too early or not. Yeah. That way we can figure out, can you truly go the traditional route or do you have to go the bank statement route? Maybe tax season's coming out. How do we...
Well, and that's how people negotiate against themselves, and especially from an uninformed position. They're like, "Oh, I'd probably never, I'd probably never be allowed to, right?"
But
go talk to someone who actually knows what they're doing.
And then they just wait, and like you see it a lot of times, like they wait, and maybe they don't do things the way that they should, and they keep calling around, and this person tells them no, I tell them no, or whatever, and then they just keep calling until maybe that one experienced person tells them the answer they want to hear, and then, as you all know, it hits the fan the week before closing. Yeah. So that's why I think it's just best to get with somebody reputable that you can trust that's willing to say no, or here's how we got to do it, or here's how you need to prepare for it.
And it may just be no, not now. Right. Go do these things, right? And I think that's critical as far as so when it comes down to it, for a lot of the, entrepreneurs, the self-employed folks, right? Whether it be, whether it be real estate agents, right? Investors, full-time flippers. You may have someone who, they've got a cleaning business. They have whatever it may be. I mean, I'm assuming even someone who does Uber for a living or whatever, right? As long as they meet the certain thresholds, right? And so, I know, so some of the hurdles with doing this type of deal, one of the reasons I like talking about when deals get tough and stuff, it's because it showcases, skill sets, right? But normally with these, right, so you have entrepreneurs, right? So sometimes they say, oh, the bank won't ever touch me. A lender won't ever touch me. But when you said, because I'm, self-employed, you said, though, you guys have some investors. So these are the investors that fund y'all's loans that allow y'all to lend on these deals. they're like, hey, these are good borrowers,
Right.
right? And what do you mean by that?
Meaning like credit's good. They have, assets, credit capacity, collateral. It's like, you're looking for the 3 C's. Like it's kind of common sense lending to some degree, but it's really like, does it make sense?
Yeah.
And they just found, investors found kind of a pocket that was missing.
A demand, a growing demand,
Yeah, and I'm pretty lucky to where I started before with Angel Oak. When Richard got me in the business, we were like one of the first to really do those loans. Like
y'all pushing the non-QM stuff.
We had a huge hedge fund. I didn't know what the heck I was talking about at the time. Like, what do you? But nobody was. Everybody just like, yeah, y'all do that stuff that nobody wants to touch, and now everybody's doing them. Yeah. Everybody's catching on to them because they realize like there's a huge opportunity here. Like you said, like more people now than ever are self-employed, making money elsewhere, and they want to keep the most money in their pocket. So there's there's a product out there for them.
If somebody is W-2 and has a side hustle and they're self-employed on the side hustle, can they do the bank statement loan?
Yeah, I mean, you can have a co-borrower. I mean, I'd have to look but yeah, I mean, you should be able to combine the two. I mean, It rarely comes up.
Sure.
That way, most of the time it's somebody really focused on their
more 100%.
That example just hadn't come up.
Yeah,
a whole lot.
I can imagine a real estate agent who right now is struggling that does 10 deals a year that can't really support themselves as an agent fully. They go get a W-2 job supplemented by their real estate income. Maybe that can qualify them for a bank statement loan, or you may use the W-2 income and then they.
Yeah, you would have to see what I've learned over the years. It's like, don't say yes and don't say no right at the gate. Like this, like now more than ever, you got to get the full picture of everything.
Yeah,
exactly.
Guidelines are changing all the time. It's just, no matter what, it could be the easiest deal ever. But there's this, as you know, on the back end, there's always something little that you have to overcome, no matter what it is. So don't say yes, don't say no. Like, let's get all the facts to try to catch whatever obstacle that we're going to have to jump over.
Hey guys, Courtney, Fricke here. We've got Aussie Steve. And look, if you have a deal that needs to get moved, Southeast Louisiana, even in South Mississippi, we're your folks. We are the largest dispo company, really in the greater New Orleans area, even Southeast Louisiana. We have great contacts in South Mississippi as well. Steve, why do we move more deals than others?
Just we're very deep in this market, so Greater New Orleans can be really confusing for national wholesalers. The comps are hard. We change block for block. We got flood zones. We get a lot of hurricanes and the likes, and just a lot of the national platforms don't have the buyers on their list. So we are deep with buyers, but we're deep with relationships, which is really important in this market. So we'd love JVing with out-of-state investors.
Like I said, we do a ton of business with other investors. So go to homebuyerlouisiana.com/Courtney, fill out the information. We'll get in touch with you and we'll move this deal along.
Always have that caveat. Hey, can we close in a week? Sure, if there's no title issues. You got to always do that.
Yeah, so somebody asked me
sure, if the stars align.
Somebody was bragging about like closing a deal in 6 or 7 days. Like, can you do that? I'm like, I mean, maybe, but I don't want to.
Yeah.
Like,
the answer is yes, if all these things line up where they're supposed to.
Trust me, it's I personally on the investor side, I'm like, you don't first of all, you don't want the I don't want the speed part, because like that's when mistakes get made. Right.
Yep.
Like it can be done, and sometimes the deal demands, something like that, right? But like that shouldn't, and it's the wrong metric. Because at the end of the day, like that is something that obviously could bring some benefit to the transaction, but it's at a cost, and a lot of times the cost is I
feel like you're doing
quality.
You're doing it for ego when you're doing it. I mean, I know like stuff,
especially if you don't have to.
Right, stuff happens and you gotta like rush stuff, but promising to close in that time frame, that's more of a ego thing, in my opinion. Even though it can be done, it's like
good luck getting. I mean, like
it's where mistakes happen.
It's where mistakes happen, and so again, you never want to force that. Like I never want to force those types of deals. I tell people all the time, like if we don't have to close in that amount of time, like I understand convenience, I understand like sounds nice, but I'm telling you right now, if you don't have to, you shouldn't, because then you're asking everyone to basically go outside their normal process. And that's where mistakes can happen. And then that can hurt all parties involved, right? Like imagine like doing even proper due diligence and making sure you got all the paperwork done right. And I mean, you're just asking for more headaches. And so that's one of those things. And so what what has been with the bank statement loan? What is something that you've enjoyed? You know, you said, you know, when you guys started off with the non-QM stuff, you know, what have you enjoyed with this product? You know, because it's one of those things people don't always know about, right? They don't always know it's possible. But you know, what has been something that you've enjoyed about the product versus, you know, the more traditional route
Right.
of getting someone, you know, through the normal financing means?
I would say because they're not easy. You know, a lot of people may not do them because they're difficult to do. I mean, we've done them for a long time.
Yeah.
Because people's difference, you know, people's businesses are structured different. What I enjoy most is telling them like, "Hey, we have an option for you," and
Right. You thought there was
and
no hope, but
right, they think that there's no hope, and their family just grew because they had a baby, and they really need to get into a bigger house, and you know, if not, they would be miserable for the next year or two, crammed up in a 1,300 square foot house or whatever that wasn't big enough for them. So I think that's the most enjoyable thing is seeing how grateful they are that they do have a loan program out there for them.
Yeah.
But and I think also something to talk about too, and we can touch on this for a second, is the fact that the team that you have is so good at. I mean, Leanne's phenomenal, right? And the back office staff that y'all have is what I see most mortgage lenders succeed because they've got that person behind
support,
them
yeah.
that's there to really keep things organized. So Leanne coming with y'all from from Angel Oak, probably from Fidelity and old lending days, having the experience with Richard, seeing how he likes to do things creatively probably makes a huge difference too.
well,
Yeah.
it also says something though too, because you were saying like, you know, a lot of other lenders not ignore, but maybe try to steer away from these because they're more difficult. But maybe might be starting to do a few because like, hey, the market demands it. But on the other side, you guys have put in the reps, and because you've put in the reps and you have the support staff to help with it, it's like you guys are more capable of helping.
Yeah, and it's when you do more of them, you know what to expect and you know what to ask for. But then you also like the biggest thing is you know the expectations to set with them too. Like, you know, we're going to need to get a lot from you, or just as long as you set the right expectations of what you're going to need from them and the time frame, that makes it easier. And that's not just setting expectations with the client, but setting it with both agents too.
It gets buy-in from everyone for like, hey, what is this going to take?
Everybody wants the same thing.
to get
You know,
across
we're
that
just
closing
taking a
table.
different route to get there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's the beautiful thing about how we're set up is we're all even between the producers, like we're all trying to figure out how to help each other and our back end. Everybody, like this is truly one of the first times like everybody's on the same page to help one another from me starting it to the closer finishing it. And I think that's the way we're set up is good. We're not this super huge company and we're not a broker either. We're in the middle and it's been really good. And even the owners are in the trenches with us producing, so they're familiar with exactly what I'm going through.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen a lot of owners or managers or whatever, they're just out there recruiting. And the same thing like going back to baseball. It's like you got this coach who, you know, and you found it, and I love some of them, but there were some coaches that you had that you've surpassed 10 levels from where they were. And it's, you know, you love them to death, but it's like, do you really know what I'm looking at in the box? Or like, you got to be there to sometimes experience it. Not that you have to play at a high level to be a great coach, but, you know, if you're a great coach and you've been at a high level, I think it's just even better.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's transition to marketing. And every business has to do some marketing, and people don't realize how important it is to build relationships. And so I think that being from here has allowed you to helps you with the relationship side of your business. But I know that, you know, there's several ways to go generate business. You can buy leads, you can do the cold calling, or you can do the relationship style business. And just being around you and knowing and being in similar circles, I think the relationship side is important to you. What is your strategy on the building relationship side of getting business from agents or direct to consumer?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not the big cold call guy. I think when I got started, I didn't know any better, and I was just calling anybody under the sun. And I mean, I did have some success with it, but at the same time, I think to be have a sustainable pipeline, like we talk about this all the time, is just about relationships. And I'm lucky to have a lot of relationships here. Some, fortunately, don't know me directly, but know of me, or maybe know a family member, or whatever. It's like, I love the community because somebody can connect you with that person.
You're one relationship away from everybody.
Right. Yeah. Facebook's the greatest tool ever because, if there's somebody that you're trying to get in with or figure out the connection, like, you're going to find a connection.
Yeah.
If you don't have a connection, then probably going to be hard.
It's really hard at this point in time in the world.
It's an easy way to turn a cold conversation into a warm conversation when you're like, oh, so-and-so, hey.
Right. But I mean, I think it truly is. And look, I could be better about being more structured with the calls and all that stuff. But I mean, for me, it's just about constantly, like, my antennas are always up. And it's just about being always active. And, if I'm being active or proactive, whether I'm actually getting business from it, whether it's just calling somebody for something stupid, and just having a conversation, like, if I can constantly do that, staying involved with St. Paul's or at the park with my kids in sports, or just genuinely staying in touch with people, like, it just kind of snowballs from there. And I think we talked about this a long time ago. What I've learned is don't discredit, because I mean, you're meeting a bunch of people and, like, will I ever see this person again? Or like, do I really want to spark a conversation here? And then next thing you know, you find out that they bought a house like a month later. You're like, I was a real, what for, not that that's the reason why you made the conversation, but it's like, be open and, be open to conversation and don't be in the corner, just kind of hiding. It's like, just truly be out there talking to people. And just because this person does this, doesn't mean that you can't help them or they can't help you.
There's a saying that I like, it's a closed mouth never gets fed, right? So it's like this idea. And for a long time, I was a silent professional. Like, I bought houses and I was investing. I didn't talk about it on social media, and I didn't really tell people. Like, it was what I went out and I did what I needed to do. And it was actually, I don't love the guy for a lot of what he does, but Grant Cardone, again, people can take or leave him. But he said something, and it really, for whatever reason, was the shift I needed. And he goes, my name's Grant, and if you don't know who I am and how I can help you, it's my fault. And it was one of those things. It was like that idea of ownership with it. But it's crazy, but it's like you never know where those conversations. And so for me, it actually, when that clicked, it almost freed me up just to be genuine. And it's like, I don't need a transaction to come out of this conversation. I just want people to know I can help. Right. And I, and then it freed me up just to be, relational.
Right.
And so then I enjoy it, because then I'm not here, cold calling and hating my life, hitting X amount, although it works, that's just not my ideal of a life.
For sure. But some people love it though. And there's a point to that. And I think
it's a fit for other people.
For sure.
Just not me.
And being the sales system in which people follow, again, some people don't even realize they're following a system, but they have one. Whether it's a dry erase board we were talking about earlier, where you have the names of people that are warm leads, you're trying to convert to hot leads and closing them. But if you break down your database and you look at the relationships that you have, you don't have to have as many relationships as you think in order to accomplish what you want to accomplish if you're intentional about building those relationships. And that's what you and I have talked about a bunch. We spend a lot of time with people that we share common values with, but we don't talk about those things. We don't say like, hey, this is my values. The more you get to know somebody, the closer you're going to get, likely because you have some shared experience or you have some values that align. So you like to enjoy spending time with those people.
Right.
And the biggest example of that for you and I is the Hogs for the Claws team, right? We support the local Hog for a Cause team called Hog Watch. There's about 35 guys on the team, and we raise money for pediatric brain cancer. But the cause is something that we talk about often, but just spending time with genuine guys that we actually enjoy connecting with is the circle in which we want to be.
Right.
And we all know that by consistently being in front of those people and talking about what we do in this way, that's not directly overselling yourself to those people that you share values with, but just spending time with them. We know for a fact that we're going to do the work whenever it's the opportunity to do that.
Right.
Because we're building genuine relationships with those.
And it makes it so much more enjoyable too. Like it doesn't matter. Like you could have all the money in the world, but if you don't enjoy the process while you're doing it and able to like share the success with somebody, like it gets monotonous and not as fun.
Yeah.
But like the one we had a couple weeks ago with a good friend, it's like that was so fun to like, well, like when you have the relationship with the person that you're helping out, that makes it even more worth it. Like we're in the relationship business, not the transaction business.
And a lot of people in the real estate world, especially on our end, it's so competitive. There's so many mortgage lenders, so many title companies. And when you actually have the relationships with the friends, you know that it's a lot. You don't have to sell it. You're likely going to get that work if you do a good job.
Right.
And like it's just the whole experience is more enjoyable than somebody that you're constantly having to prove yourself to. And I mean, that's why I find it so rewarding. There are some people in my line of work that just do not like spending time with mortgage lenders and real estate agents.
Right.
Because they feel like they're always having to solve a problem.
And I get it, yeah.
And look, the people are pulling on your energy all the time. And in order for you to have a growing, successful business, you have to continue to build new relationships. So it's, again, you're giving and giving and giving. But if you don't genuinely have a heart to do that, then it's going to be really hard to be successful in this world, in this line of work. Unless you decide you want to do the cold call, go direct to seller, figure out how to kind of like skirt the system a little bit. But if you dive into it and you enjoy building genuine relationships, you're going to be successful in the real estate world. If you do that, couple it with hard work, build genuine relationships, hard work, understanding the process, doing a good job, you're going to be successful. And I enjoy the relationship side of business, and it's fun to do business with people like you because, again, we've got the families and the kids in the same school. We support the same charities. We, generally like the same things. So it's easy to build relationships that way.
And the confidence and the trust is there too. It's
do business with people that you love. That's how I like to think of it.
And there's this level there that going back to your baseball, it's like it's hard to get certain results if you don't put in the reps, like if you don't put in the work. And the work is hard. Like especially again to get certain level of results. I'm an introvert. Like, believe it or not, I am. Like, so even though I can work a room and I can be social, it drains the hell out of me. Yeah. I literally will go home and like I have got like to build in some time to like recoup because it'll drain me. And most people don't know that, don't see that because all they see is me working a room and being social. And I'm like, but I understand that it's a part of the process, that it's basically the reps I have to put in. Same thing like going and putting in practice, right? Mm-hmm. Like you've got to put in the work to get what you want. And it's almost like a level of buy-in for it. And I think a lot of people, it's I get like the relationships. It is not natural for everyone. It's not easy. There's plenty of days when I'd rather be doing everything else.
Right.
But And Ryan, as long as, I've known you and been friends with you, I've always appreciated the way that you're genuine and you care, and the way that you show up. And so that makes the relationship easy because, there's people who aren't genuine and who don't care, who don't show up, you know what I mean? And so that makes it also easier because I appreciate that part, right?
The same goes for y'all too.
Yeah, and that's where it makes the team part easier, right? Like I'm sure people have all been a part of a team where there's like someone who's like, I mean, they're here, but no one likes being around them, right? But so I can appreciate that part too. But I did want to ask you, in all of your marketing and your relationship building, who is like an ideal client for you? Like obviously you work with a lot of different types of clients, but what would that ideal client look like for you?
I mean, I do enjoy the first-time home buyers. Sure, having that big $1 million house is nice, but I mean, they've probably done this 3 or 4 times. They got to go to a guy or whatever. But I love that. And it doesn't even have to be a first-time home buyer, but just kind of those ones who are maybe just getting that process started, getting married. Kind of like we said, like-minded people. But the first-time home buyers are good because they don't know the process. They don't know what to expect, what to do. And it's fun, like just really seeing the excitement throughout the whole process.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm not chasing the big multi-million-dollar deals, but somewhere in the middle is kind of that sweet spot. Somebody similar interests that is just genuine.
Yeah. Those people that are looking to grow a family, grow a business, and make it and be and provide a better life for themselves. I mean, that's where we're at, and it is enjoyable to work with those people because they're genuinely interested in learning and figuring out the process. They don't know so much that they almost do want to do your job for you, even though they do it 3 or 4 times in their life. They're not experts at it. So those people that are generally relying on you, that want your expertise, that have a growing business and family, that you're actually helping them accomplish something that's substantial in their life. It is so rewarding sitting in at closing, like we did with our buddy Jared Averill, to plug a name. I mean, getting to hang out with that dude, and it was his second home, but it was a good experience. He hadn't done it in 8 years, and his wife actually was there. We've known him for a long time. It's fun when you get to experience.
He's
that.
never had a bad day.
Yeah,
ever.
And he's a great guy. So it's fun to do that. So I get it. Those are the fun transactions for me as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, for sure.
All right. Cool. Thanks for coming on and talking to us.
I appreciate you guys.
So
Glad we got it done.
What's the best way folks can get in touch with you?
Cell phone.
Yeah.
985-516-0951. But no, I mean, offices downtown Covington on Boston. We have one in Mandeville, but my website's ryanschimpf.com. corelendingteam.com is the company website, but anywhere. Phone, Facebook, Instagram. We're always available.
Based on this conversation, most of the people you do business with are already going to know who you are. So now we just need to remind them that we do real estate. So we'll be connecting you, and we'll be sharing this with everybody. So it was fun. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you.
Thank you, guys.
Awesome.